Buzzards, God's man. I am the President of the United States of America, clothed in immense power.
What you're seeing and what you're reading is not happening.
Every American knows the name Abraham Lincoln. Our 16th president, Lincoln led the nation through the American Civil War, the country's greatest moral, cultural, constitutional, and political crisis. He succeeded in preserving the Union and abolishing slavery, but there was also a dark side to Lincoln. When Abraham Lincoln came to the stage of the 1860 State Republican Convention in Decatur, Illinois, the crowd roared in approval. Men threw hats and canes into the air, shaking the hall so much that the awning over the stage collapsed. At 51 years old, Lincoln was at the peak of his political career, with momentum that would soon sweep him to the nomination of the National Party and then to the White House. Yet to the convention audience, Lincoln didn't seem euphoric, or triumphant, or even pleased. On the contrary, said a man named Johnson, observing from the convention floor, "I then thought him one of the most diffident and worst-plagued men I ever saw." Lincoln's look at that moment, the classic image of gloom, was familiar to everyone who knew him well. Such spells were just one thread in a curious fabric of behavior and thought that his friends called as melancholy, a condition which modern mental health professionals would characterize as clinical depression. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Lincoln's melancholy was widely accepted by students of his life, based on countless memories by the people who knew him. But in the 1940s, professional historians, taking what they regarded as a scientific approach to the study of the past, began to reject personal memories in favor of hard evidence. Then, in the late 1980s and the 1990s, an emerging group of scholars began, independent of one another, to look anew at original accounts of Lincoln by the men and women who knew him. They reassessed some accounts, dug up others that had been long forgotten, and began to publish these findings, many for the first time, in lavishly annotated volumes.
"We have strong reason to believe that Lincoln absolutely thought that vampires were real,"
says Dr. Larry Acula. Lincoln archivist Dr. Richard Pinkowski explains this further.
I mean, let's be clear. Vampires don't exist. Just like witches, they don't exist too, but that might not stop someone from believing that they did.
The Salem witch trials were a series of hearings and prosecutions of people accused of witchcraft in colonial Massachusetts between February 1692 and May 1693. More than 200 people were accused. 30 were found guilty, 19 of whom were executed by hanging, 14 women and 5 men. One other man, Giles Corey, was pressed to death for refusing to plead, and at least 5 people died in jail. According to Dr. Pinkowski,
Lincoln's own great-granddaughter told me about the great emancipator's obsession with the Salem witch trials. Those were exciting times, free from outdated ideas of morality, facts, and hard evidence. In fact, I almost hooked up with her.
Conspiracy theories are as old as time, and if you think the conspiracy of witches and vampires is any more out there than some of the conspiracies today, you're not paying attention. For example, people think that the Bush family are in fact lizard people,
says Dr. Larry Acula. Some have even speculated that Bram Stoker's Dracula was inspired by Lincoln himself. Bram Stoker was born in 1847 in Ireland, at the height of the Great Potato Famine. Before penning his masterpiece about the vampires, he worked as a theater critic for various newspapers. But it's a little-known fact that he spent some time in the United States before returning to Ireland. In fact, He found his love for theater in Washington, D.C., and he would have been 18 years old at the time of Lincoln's assassination. Did he witness it? What other rumors would he have heard about the 16th president while in our nation's capital? A tall man, gaunt, possessed with determination and sporting a beard with no mustache and a stovepipe hat, reads the description of Van Helsing, the vampire hunter. Was Bram Stoker's Dracula inspired by the tales he heard of Abraham Lincoln? But far more damning than rumors and circumstantial evidence are recent discoveries of crucifixes in the Lincoln family home, sharpened into wooden stakes, some emblazoned with the names of various people. One particular name stands out: Jonias Brutus Booth, the father of John Wilkes Booth, Lincoln's assassin. John Wilkes Booth killed Lincoln out of revenge for killing his father, who he thought was a vampire.